What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to more Outriders. Now, today's quest is to provide you with an updated bullet build for the Technomancer that does some insane damage and makes soloing expeditions on tier 15 very, very easy. Now, in all honesty, I'd like to do you guys a favor, and that is to provide you with the best Outriders guides, tips, endgame builds, and more. So all you got to do is tap that subscribe and like button. Now, thank you so much for subscribing. I really do appreciate you, and let's go ahead and get started with today's video. All right, so this is a follow-up to a previous build we did here on this channel that was for starter Technomancers around expedition tiers 1 through 10. Now the build has been updated and upgraded to allow for solo expeditions at tier 15 pretty easy. The core of the build has not changed and focuses on being a bullet build where our damage comes primarily from blighted rounds and 2 mods that allow for AoE damage. What I will say is this: even though blighted and twisted rounds received a nerf, bullet builds for Technomancers are still reliable and some of the strongest if you build them correctly. So my intention today is to show you my build, explain why it is set up as so, and explain some interchangeable parts if you don't have exactly what I have available. Also, at the end of this video, I will do some gameplay for you guys so that way you guys can actually see how powerful the build actually is for me completing a gold tier 15 expedition. So of course, let's kick this off with showing what I have chosen for the class tree. At any point in the video, feel free to pause and copy the tree, but I will try my best to explain some of the more important aspects. For starters, bullet builds are all about the skill and your firepower, so we have BR/A impact amplifier selected everywhere possible. Exposing toxin and marked for execution will not only inflict the vulnerable status, but also increase its effectiveness by 40% or a 4.0 multiplier, which is very important to increasing our blighted rounds damage. Unlike the previous build, I freed up 2 points to apply into the Tech Shaman tree for 10% more health and 20% more armor. What I found is that although I was dealing incredible damage with this build, my Technomancer was still very squishy, and if I wasn't always shooting enemies, I was very easy to kill, and I just didn't have enough heals coming in to keep up with the fact that my armor was so low. So this just helps add some more cushion to our Technomancer. Assault Master is very important for increasing our firepower with assault rifles by 20%. Sharpshooter is important for increasing damage at long range, which will be 15 meters or more from you. We have an increased magazine clip of 50% with UT14 clips, which helps with our infinite blighted rounds upkeep. Purge increases damage dealt to enemies with toxic by 15%, and then anytime we use blighted rounds or blighted turret, we receive 40% more weapon damage, again increasing our firepower and helping with damage dealt by blighted rounds. And our buff from empowering antenna is 10 seconds long, so be sure that as your cooldown for blighted turret finishes, you immediately and always throw this out to keep up that buff. Going into skills, we have blighted rounds, blighted turret, and cold snap. Our focus here is to always keep blighted rounds up, which will account for about 85% of our damage done. Next is blighted turret, and that's going to do 2 things. It's going to apply toxic to any enemies nearby, and we're also going to get a 40% increase in weapon damage every time we use it. So again, make sure that you use it every time it's up. Lastly, Code Snap is a killer skill for freezing enemies, crowd control, and doing damage based on one of our mods. It also helps save our ass if we get bombarded unexpectedly. Okay, so let's go into attribute priorities before we talk about mods. The most important attribute hands down is going to be the bonus firepower, as that affects our blighted rounds damage. From here, long range and close range damage are good as well to keep boosting our firepower. If you don't have these, it's not a big deal. Cooldown reduction or status power are fine to have, they just don't contribute as much to the build. Okay, so let's get into probably the most important part of our builds, the mods. So as you can see with my Technomancer, I have quite a bit of legendaries equipped, but I have tested epics with this build with similar mods, and the damage honestly isn't too far off and is still manageable with tier 15. So starting with Sergio's cap, which is an amazing piece, you have Sharp Eye and Bloodlust. Both allow bonus firepower from killing shots and stack up to 3 times each. This gives us a really good firepower bonus, but if you don't have this, at least try to have Bloodlust on there. Next we have Icicle Storm and Damage Absorber. Icicle Storm is very good for AoE damage in this build and helps eliminate groups of people if you kill them while still affected by your Cold Snap skill. Maxed out, it does 252,000 damage to everything in a 5-meter radius. The good thing is that this piece can be bought from Tiago at the camp, so just save your drop pod resources for it. Now, I did swap out Frostbite for Damage Absorber to get the 52,000 armor and a 10% increase in resistance. I felt this was important for the survival aspect of this build in general, because at first you can be very fragile without it. Moving on, we have Captain Hunter and Spare Mag. Captain Hunter gives us an insane 25% more damage against elite, while Spare Mag gives you another mag of blighted rounds. rounds. Again, we usually won't be reloading at all during this build, as our ammo will always be replenished from killing enemies. Pick up the sleeve and long winter help replenish our ammo again in battle, but also increases the radius of our cold snap by 66%. This really helps when getting into rooms with grouped up enemies. As you kill them, they explode each other, allowing you to transition to another group of enemies farther away and then blow them up as well. Last but not least, we have Toxic Lead and Toxic Piercer. Now, Toxic Lead is an absolute must for this build, replenishing 40% of our ammo for every kill. Toxic Piercer then increases the toxic status by 20%, which is based on 100% of our armor piercing. With my mods, I reach about 334,000 firepower during expeditions, while blighted rounds always remains up. We also have about 70,000 more armor than usual, which is good for staying alive. Now, I know some of you will not have the exact roles or legendary mods, so I will try to give you some alternatives. For Sergio's Barrette, Sharp Eye is amazing, but you can just use Bloodlust for now. Before Captain Hunter, which comes from the Cannonball Gloves, I had Crit Stack, which is good for stacking bonus firepower. For Killing Spree, which comes from the Amber Vault weapon, you could do Gravedigger's Frenzy to increase your crit damage on headshots. Also, I do have a video on farming epics for tier 2 mods in my playlist if you need a really good method for that. Last but not least is our weapon choice, the Earthborn Renegade's Assault Rifle, which is now a 3-round burst after converting it to tactical. This gun comes from the DLC you got from the pre-order and comes with bone shrapnel, which blows enemies up essentially when killing them and inflicts some massive AoE damage. I also have Killing Spree on there, which comes from the legendary Amber Vault weapon. Now, for this build, I would recommend you stick to a tactical 3-round burst variants only. So if you didn't pre-order Outriders, you can replace this with a separate tactical assault rifle and at least equip it with bone shrapnel. I'd also try to farm for that Amber Vault too, as Killing Spree mod is very good for stacking your firepower damage. Alright everyone, so that is my current Technomancer build for soloing tier 15 expeditions pretty easily. I still have a couple of changes I plan on doing, but for the most part this is a very solid build and I hope it works out for you. Now, we do have more Outriders guides, endgame builds, and more in the works, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you so much for doing so. My name is Silverback, our quest is complete, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Damn it. More of them. Elevator in this lab.
Yeah, that matches the blueprints for the plant. The elevators should lead to the heart of the...
All I'm missing is some elevator music. Whatever that thing is. Shira, about those energy spikes? The insurgents had a functioning power cell down here.
What did you do with it?
It's disabled. I'll see if Zahidi can't take a look at it. Then I found a pod down here.
You saved some lives today, Outrider. I would expect nothing less from you.